Day 2 of the new Trump administration happening right now. The president is attending the National Prayer Service at the Washington National Cathedral. Now, this all comes just hours after Trump launched his aggressive presidential agenda by citing 26 executive orders on day 1 of his administration. Those orders included a crackdown of immigration at the border, bringing down inflation, an extension to keep TikTok here in the U.S., and a major shift in energy and climate policies. President Trump also granted pardons to roughly 1,500 people involved in the insurrection of the Capitol building on January 6, 2021. Now, those pardons include clemency for people convicted of assaulting police officers and seditious conspiracy. It also includes 6 commutations. Trump has repeatedly downplayed the events that unfolded during that transition of power process, where then President Joe Biden was elected to office. Lawmakers already responding to that move this morning. Senator Mark Warner had this to say earlier today.
I was here on January 6th. I saw the horror and the terror of these insurrectionists. What message does this send to law enforcement when some of these rioters brutally attacked policemen, and now they're getting a full commutation? I don't know what this says about rule of law. I mean, it's like, you know, the president's executive order around part of the Constitution, birthright citizenship. You know, I think the question is, are the laws of our nation going to mean anything, or can they be taken away by a stroke of the pen?
Now, Republicans, meanwhile, are pushing back on the criticism of pardons issued by Trump. They argue that former President Biden opened the door when he issued blanket pardons for his entire family. Take a listen to that.
Is you should pay attention. This probably won't get reported, but I hope it does. And that's the abuse of the pardon process by Joe Biden. I hope anybody who's going to be critical of what occurred last night is also very critical of a massive overreach by President Biden. Prospective pardons, kind of like a get-out-of-jail-free card, makes no sense to me either. So, to answer your question, maybe we need to go back and look at the contours of the authority that future presidents have around pardoning.
Look, I mean, I said this before, and Biden made the most massive use of pardon power that we've seen in history, and I think you guys probably should have been asking the same question.
All right, let's bring in now CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes for more on day 2 of Trump's administration. Now, Nancy, we just heard the arguments for and against pardons playing out among lawmakers today. How does this move from Trump undermine some of the legacy that Biden was trying to establish during his administration?
Yeah, Liz, I think this is a case of you see the pardons you want to see. Obviously, Republicans want to try to keep the focus on Biden's surprise pardons yesterday, about 20 minutes before he left office, preemptively pardoning his siblings and their spouses, not, he said, because they did anything wrong, but that he was worried that the Biden administration might try to come after them. And Democrats are obviously focused on these 1,500, 1,600 pardons by President Trump, who went ahead and pardoned even violent offenders, which some Republicans, even some of the Republicans you played right there, had been urging him not to do. And so, yes, with a stroke of the pen last night, President Trump undid years of work by the Department of Justice to, this was the largest investigation of all time, investigating all of these various defendants, trying to figure out who they were, who did what in the chaos of what we saw on January 6th. Who was it that wielded that flagpole? Who was it that threw that punch? They had to do all that painstaking work first, piecing together images, videos, simply to come up with the prosecutions before any of these individuals were actually tried and convicted. That has now suddenly all gone away. The slate has been wiped clean, and the defendants and those who have been convicted who were in jail are now being released.
Yeah, and I should remind our viewers those convictions were seditious conspiracy, some of them, and assaulting police officers. I want to switch gears, though, Nancy. President Trump says he will remove over 1,000 political appointees from the Biden administration. How does this affect his staffing in the first 100 days in office?
Yeah, that's a good question because often what happens in these situations, of course, you've got, some overlap. You've got cases where the new administration comes in every time. They want to put their own people in place, but it takes time to hire thousands and thousands of officials at all these different agencies and get them in place. So often what will happen is you'll keep the folks who are there on the job until you can replace them. Well, basically what Trump is saying in this case is, I'm not doing that. I'm getting rid of all of those people now, or in some cases, I'm removing civil servants. I'm keeping them on the job. They will remain employees of these various agencies, but I'm taking them out of their leadership positions. So it does create a lot of vacancies that may take time to fill, depending on how quickly various cabinet members can get confirmed, get on the job, and make some of those hiring decisions.
And right now, President Trump, alongside Vice President J.D. Vance and their families, are attending the National Prayer Service. But he's got a jam-packed schedule following the service today. Can you walk us through his movements after the service is done?
Yeah, no rest for the weary. Even President Trump looks a little bit exhausted sitting there at the National Cathedral after everything that he did yesterday, late into the night with the inaugural balls, etc. But today he's got a jam-packed day as well. He's meeting with Republican leaders from the Hill all afternoon. As you can imagine, they've got a lot to discuss. They've got some very ambitious legislation that they want to try to push through Congress as quickly as possible. So they've got to strategize about that. And then in the 4 o'clock hour Eastern time, the White House says he's got a big announcement to make about infrastructure. We don't know more than that, but we'll certainly be watching. Yesterday, when he was in the Oval Office with reporters for the first time signing executive orders, it turned into a 45-minute, hour-long Q&A session, basically an impromptu press conference. So we'll see what happens today.
Yeah, it's always very interesting, Nancy. The president is very busy, and so are you, just tracking his movements. Thanks so much for keeping us updated.